different colors. No, it's the same. And Kelly, who was born and raised in China, is like my mom.
Wally was saying this?
Sorry, my friend just joined. It's really awkward. I haven't seen her in like 3 months.
Call her out.
Why couldn't you?
Ask her if she can hear you.
Hey, Nom. Oh, never mind. Hey, how's it going? It's not awkward at all.
Recorded, so there's a record of it. Plus, participate.
Yeah.
So it's a file.
Like, I might not like it. Yeah, I'll try it. I tried to do Kelly. Somehow knew.
Okay, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay and see me okay? Fantastic. If you would, just mute your mic when you're not talking, and if you want to talk, certainly unmute and chime in at any point in time. We're going to do a couple of different things tonight, go over, get some traction on the ePortfolio, the first part of the session. Then we're going to move on into objectives and writing assessment items. So there's some interactive things that you're going to be required to engage in over the net. So be prepared. A lot of fun. I just got a great idea. We should survey everybody on what they're eating at some point during the, maybe not tonight, but it would be really interesting to see how the food choices break down across this multi-regional area. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start my screen sharing, and we'll get right to it. All right, so from the home page, under tonight's session, I've got an activity sheet dated 9/16. And the first thing I wanted to make sure everybody has got going is they all know where the website template is. We want to make sure, like, if you do not already have the website template working for you, we want to get that working for you now. So there's a link on this page. And again, let's figure where that page is coming from.
No.
But you got Zoom downloaded?
I can't. It won't like.
Oh, it won't do that either.
Right. Like it's not thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a problem with the desktop part. It's just me, but I can't seem to.
Is there going to be a way? Yeah, because y'all are not going to be able to hear all the way back there. I don't know if there.
Okay, so if you would, if you haven't already created your portfolio, to do that, you want to click on this link, and it should give you the portfolio. We're going to actually play with the portfolio for a while, show you how to modify it, customize it, edit pages, things of that nature.
Yeah, this isn't. Just not picking up. No.
So there's a couple of different ways you can get to this link. Probably the easiest way would be from the home page, scroll down to tonight's session.
I didn't do my internal, but I did do my external. Internal, you pick the one from the internal apps, and if you're outside of the hospital, you have to pick the external app. So that's where you. I'll show you. I gotta do this.
Okay.
So we're getting a little play-by-play of somebody going through the setup.
I'm close to Tamarack now. Let me do. Yeah. that live.
So unless you want us to hear you, you want to mute your microphone if possible. Okay, so clicking on this link to the portfolio, how are we doing with that? In the room, we've all done it. It's happening. Got access to it. Are you greeted with some kind of box that says use this template? You want to do that.
It's a little better. This is better.
All right, so use this template. When you do that, that will turn the ePortfolio template into your ePortfolio. Obviously, you want the benefit of the template, but you don't want the content of the template. So we want to start editing that as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and do these steps so you can see what it looks like when I'm doing it. It's going to ask me to name it. So I'm here using the template specified. I'm going to give it a name, just like you can use your name or anything that's not objectionable as a name. I taught high school for 7 years. So it's going to ask you to do some things like put in the little CAPTCHA words to prove you're not a robot. And you want to hit create site. Okay, test site 1. How about that? That's not available either. So I'm going through the process of trying to find a site name that has not been used. It might require a little imagination. Okay, great. That's not a good choice. Okay. I'm going to have to go top secret. Is everybody having the same issue I am, or is everybody else is working? That's the way it's supposed to go. All is right with the world. Yeah, it's spinning. So the spinning, it might take a minute to actually pull this template down, but that's what success looks like. 20 minutes.
It took a long time for me, yeah.
Where did you do it?
At my house. Like, I honestly can't. It took a while, let's put it that way, because I walked back several times. But yeah, it took a long time to load. So I thought I did something wrong. I was like, I'll just let it sit.
All right, well, this will give us an opportunity. So for those of you who have done this activity, how am I going to know where your portfolio is? How am I going to get to your portfolio? There is a form. Okay, so look, mine happened somehow. I'm gonna show you where the form is next, but this is where we're going. First thing, we have to get a site. We've gotten a site. We want to go ahead and edit this site before we start sharing. Figure out who is giving us the noise.
Yeah, we weren't here.
Hey, Carolyn. She just, yeah, all right. She just muted her mic. Success. Okay, so going through this exercise, I've downloaded my site. Now I want to edit it. Have we edited anything yet? All right, so first thing we want to do is probably take out the picture of Homer on this page. All right?
Yeah. I can ask it later, but I have a question on formatting.
Well, let me show everybody how to get rid of Homer first, or edit anything on a page. So
Okay.
this page, there's an edit button up here. That'll kick you into an editing window here. Notice you've got an editing menu bar. I'm just going to select this image and hit remove. And here we've got an opportunity to write a little self-introduction. You could add a picture, but this is the fill in the blank part. If you would just take a couple of minutes and edit your content here, and then when you're finished putting in a small self-introduction, hit the save button. Okay, there was a question here about the ePortfolio.
Yeah, in terms of like my picture, I couldn't get the text to wrap. I mean, I thought we had to have a picture. So
It's a good idea to have one.
Okay.
So let's look at that for a second. I'm
And
gonna.
text wrap, there's an option, but it's still, it just scrunched everything together. So like you can kind of see it, my picture, the words are below, and I want the words to be next to it.
Okay.
Like how that one, like how you
Sure.
got it.
Yeah.
But I'm not connected to the internet yet, so I can't send it right now.
You want to connect?
I'm trying, it's loading.
How did you connect?
I've never tried it before.
How did we do it? 4SU. Hard lessons, or they stay.
Yeah, they stick.
She was panicking.
It's still loading.
Yeah, that just get out of all of that. Make sure you're on 4SU. And this will be good for the rest of the year, the rest of our association together. All right, so when you refresh your page, once it connects, it'll prompt you. So I'm just continuing doing some editing. You know, if you have a bio on LinkedIn or something like that, you could copy and paste it in here, customize it for this purpose. So there's, I don't know if I have a picture to insert in here. But if I wanted to insert a picture, I would go up to the menu bar and look for the picture. How do you do that? Insert image.
You have the same problem with the text not wrapping. You know, the option for text wrap, but it just scratches it.
All right, so did you type in your text or did you, how did you type it in or did you copy and paste your text in?
I typed it in. Copy and paste it on.
Let me see if I can replicate your issue.
Oh, it worked.
Hmm.
It worked. Just hit the wrap. There are two wrap options. There's one that's like to the left. That's the one that wraps it. The picture.
So like most free products, it's not without some quirks, but if you play with it for a little while, you can get a picture in there. You can wrap text around it, and it's always better to have pictures and text given the choice. All right, so I think we're getting close to saving and sharing with each other. So if you would, go ahead and save what you've got so far by hitting that save button in the upper right-hand side of your screen. All right, so if I wanted to, share this with my grandmother, what would I do? I would have to buy her a computer and then, no, just kidding. But the URL is the web address of this, and that's what you would copy and paste to friends. So that's basically what I'm going to ask you to insert in the form. So you want to go up to the address bar and select the address of your site and get it on the clipboard. Control C or edit copy. So where is that form we've talked about? If you go back to the page for tonight's activities, 9/16/2014, at the bottom I've put the ePortfolio form link down there as well. Now some of you guys have already done this. If you've already done this, you're not required to do it again. I just wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity to have it demonstrated. So if you click on that ePortfolio link form, there's a Google form that asks you your first and last name. And it says copy and paste your Google Sites address here. And then enter the city of your residency location. All right, so when you hit submit, the magic of Google will take those form results and dump them into a spreadsheet. Once upon a time, back in the dark ages, we used to use email to communicate things like, where's your address? Or where's your work? Well, this Google form is a huge time saver because everybody fills out the one form, all the results go to one spreadsheet. So the answer to where is everything, it's on that one sheet, and we can share it among ourselves and make it public. Everybody can look at everybody else's portfolio if that's a desired outcome. But instead of 50 emails, one form. So if we wanted to look at those responses, we could actually go back to tonight's activity sheet and look at the form results, see who had submitted and when.
It says you need permission.
It does to view it. Well, you can't, but I can.
No.
So I could give everybody permission to look at it, or you could just take my word that, so far we've got 29 responses. And probably what we're going to do is make it, once we get something else going, make it more public. But right now, know in your heart of hearts that we know all the addresses, we know where they are, and we will share them. Request to share. Is that what? Okay, these are people wanting to see the yeah, right. That's everybody wants to see this. Well, I tell you what, I don't have to share it with everybody. What I can do is just make it a public document. I don't think there's anything. see if I can do that. Okay. I have made that a public document now, so you should be able to hit that link and or refresh what you just tried and be able to see the list. Is that a true statement? Bam. Okay. Things are working. It's a refreshing change in technology. So thank you very much for your responses. Boom, we can see that we're getting all kinds of results. That's the good news. The bad news is we really don't have anything to share yet because we've just probably pulled down the ePortfolio and started the process of editing it. Now, I know that we have done some things like submitted some learning objectives. So we actually have some content that we are in a position to push up to the ePortfolio. So you could edit your, introduction page at your convenience. What I'd like to do next is go ahead and upload the draft copies of your learning objectives and your test questions. So you guys have those with you? I know you uploaded them to Canvas. Are those all digitally accessible?
I'm gonna keep the question. And then I listen to your lecture.
It's my job to shame you about your assessment questions. Don't be.
I hated these questions. So I'm gonna do it.
So you made one.
They won't die.
And then I listened to your lecture and I was like, oh God.
You're not the only person that did a K-type question.
Sorry, guys.
But now is when you want to do them. You don't want to do them, in a month. You're not supposed to come in knowing everything, but this will show development. So you are not alone in that.
I was like, me. And
Well, confessing in public in a recorded session is pretty much now everybody knows. Thank you, Aaron. Okay. So let's go back to the template and do some editing. Where's the darn thing? All right, so in all likelihood, the learning objectives and the test questions that you have been playing with and drafting relate to your first lecture. Would that make sense? All right, so given that, we can go over to the lectures. All right, so from the home page, I went to the lecture tab. And then I selected lecture 1. Now you guys already know what your lecture is going to be for the most part. Why don't you go ahead and edit this page? Well, I'll tell you what, let's see how we could do that. We could edit this page and change the title, change this text. Notice there's a hyperlink that goes to lecture 1. If we click on this lecture 1 link and hit change, we can actually modify the text that shows up for that link. And you can go ahead and put in your topic. Let me show you how that happens again, slowly. I'm over here on the lecture page. I hit edit, so I know I'm in the editing window. Here's the menu bar and everything. So when you're in the editing window, the links don't work, but you can edit them. All right, so I clicked on that link, and what happens is it brought up the actual address of the next page. But I hit change. I don't, oops, that's not what I want. Well, what happened to me? I want to change it. I was getting a different window a second ago. I do that. Let me back out. Lectures. Edit. Oh, that's irritating. It's not letting me change the text now, but it gave me a window earlier. I'm recording this, so I have proof. If you can get to that window, you can say instead of lecture 1, you could drop in your topic. If you can, then do. If you can't, I will have to investigate. You know, it's a good time if you can modify lecture 2. If you want to change that title. You know, both of your lectures are, now would be a good time to drop in both topics, or at least one. All right, so we've modified this lectures page. We want to save those changes and move over to lecture 1, click on the lecture 1 page. And we actually have some content we can start playing with here. Page 1, or lecture 1, content page and objectives. I'm going to go over here. So here's the little kind of breadcrumb trail backwards to lectures. I've added some text. I'm going to go over to lecture 1 and start filling in some of these blanks here. Now these blanks, these are all just links. So content page and objectives. Now's a good time to edit that page. Hit the edit button. Start filling in the blanks for lecture 1. The content page, as you can tell, is more or less an overview of what's going to be going on. So you got options here with your learning objectives. Copy and paste is not a bad one. Whatever's quicker, either to retype them or copy and paste. It's also not a bad idea. At the bottom here, you can actually upload your Word documents. But you want to do that in addition to filling out the page, not as a substitute. Speaking from the instructor side of the table, nobody wants to have to download and open anything, right? They want to click and see it. And that's being web consumers, you guys are in the same boat everybody else is. So the more things that are on the page, the fewer clicks, the better. It's the way we've engineered this template.
Under required, does that mean required meetings or?
Yeah, like anything. I mean, actually, you could omit that if you want. I just have it in there as a, yeah, I would say it could be used for required readings. You need to, you know, pre-work, you might need to do something before the lesson. If it's not applicable, feel free to take it out.
When I type in like my lecture title and like the link, now it won't let me go anywhere else. Like it says when I click on like, here, when I click on it, it says sorry, the link cannot be found.
We know that that's a problem. That's okay. I'll hit change. Sorry, page. No, that's all right.
It's a lecture dash one. I mean, yeah, whatever. However, it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's
Yeah,
drilling down. That's them down. Parasites.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Get parasites right
Okie dokie. Questions from the field. Editing these pages. Too easy? Not challenging enough?
This is Danny. I still can't get my lecture title to work correctly. Am I supposed to replace lecture 1 with the title, or is the title supposed to come after the lecture 1 hyperlink?
So on the lectures page, you're wanting to like change the lecture 1 to like a name.
No, I'm trying to figure out, you want it set the way you have it on the screen, so leave that lecture 1 hyperlink alone and just put the title after it.
Yeah, you can do that. That's the path of least resistance. That's what I did because
Okay, sounds good.
yeah.
Thanks.
All right, so the lecture 1 link brings you to the lecture 1 page, which has this menu of 8 things, the first of which is the contents page. And then you would just start editing. Make sure you save when you edit. So you can see here for lecture 1 content, I'm going to call mine ePortfolio, just So home. Got a picture, got text wrap, lectures, lecture 1, content and objectives. So this is where you would upload and or actually upload and put your learning objectives that you submitted in Canvas. All right, it's great they're in Canvas, but the goal here is to use this portfolio as the place to where you keep all your work. Again, I would recommend copy and pasting and or typing in your content depending on how much it is. Obviously, copying and pasting is fine. But in addition to that, you can use this feature at the bottom that says add files to upload documents in their native format. Not a bad thing to do. Say, for example, your computer blows up and that you had your documents on and you want that Word document. This would be a place to get it. And this portfolio will be yours going on into perpetuity. So I will emphasize it's not a substitute for filling out the page though. Why? Because we don't want to download it and then open it. We just want to click and see it. All right? We're efficient consumers of web content. Okay, so we should be able to have uploaded our learning objectives for lecture 1. You submitted them in Canvas, thank you. In addition to that, we want to upload those to lecture 1, and we want to actually do the same thing with the assessment questions. So I'm going to go back to lecture 1, and you can see there's some other things to insert here. Test questions. Test questions is blank. So what I would do here is edit them. You're certainly permissible to edit the title. If your lecture is parasites, put parasites there. You don't have to edit the title, but you may. So copy and paste your content. Your assessment questions for lecture 1. Find them, open them, copy, paste. Don't forget to save. So Danny, I was able to change lecture 1 to the title of my lecture just then. Again, not required, but
Yeah, I must be doing something wrong because it's screwing up the hyperlink when I do that. So I'll just play with it offline.
yeah, and to fix the hyperlink, we had one of these here. The easy way to do that in the editing window, because it was already kind of set up, say this got screwed up, what you would do is just hit change. It's a sites page. All these are Google Sites pages. So you can actually just kind of hunt for it. Notice this is the whole site. Everybody's site is similar. So you could go to lectures, lecture 1. This is actually the page. And hit OK. So that's a way you could restore that functionality to your link. I'm sure that there will be many links modified during the course of this semester, but it's easy to fix.
Okay, great. Yeah, that tree is helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, it's also called the site map, and if you ever just want to get your head around it in a different way, you could go over here and look at that.
Perfect.
And you can see it's somewhat rationally organized. Under lectures, you got 1 and 2. Under lecture 1, that's kind of your drop-down menu there. Yeah, so it's not bad to have a different view of what's going on here. And the site map will provide you that. So that brings up an interesting point. Say there's some things that you want to add that's not part of this template. Previous work, other work, add pages. It's easy to add a page. You can add it anywhere you want in the structure. And it's really easy to link to it. So I can demonstrate that. Just get out of the sitemap for a second. Let me go back to the home page. All right, so I want to add a page that's not part of this template. Boom, new page. Totally easy. It's going to say, what do you want to call it and where do you want it? So I'm just going to say, new page. There are page templates. I'm not going to mess with that. And here's where you would either put it under something or at the top level. I'm just going to say put it under the home page. If these choices are not enough for you and you want more flexibility in where you put your new page, you can choose a different location, and this will give you access to the sitemap. So, for example, when I created these pages and I'm, had to make this decision, I'm adding a new page. Where do you want to put the first lecture content page? Under the lecture 1 page, which is under lecture. So you can put your page anywhere is the short story. So I'm just going to put mine at the top. Doesn't really matter where it is. So I've created a new page. This is it. It's a blank page. Programming. First programming assignment in every programming language is Hello World. All right, so new page, Hello World. It's in the site. It's not really linked to anything. All right. If I wanted to go over here to the sitemap, I could find it. There it is, new page. If I wanted to link to it, that's easy as well. I'm going to go back to the home page. I'll edit my self-introduction here. So, all right, so you can make anything a link, any text or image. Here's the hyperlink tool. So it's going to say, what do you want to link to? And I have to find the page I want to link to and just click on it and hit OK. Make sure you save your changes whenever you're working in these pages. So that there's now my view. So self-introduction, click here to see my new page. Bam. So it's really, really easy and really intuitive. The rationale behind providing the template for everybody is we want them to all somewhat look the same, because it gets to be somewhat of a daunting task when everybody has their own design proclivities. And it's like, I think it'd be cool to work back to front or left to right. You know, it's like, okay, well, let's start here. But if you need to add to it or want to add to it, it's not a problem. These sites get used for a lot of different functions. I mean, I use them in my education classes, project management, projects where everybody can get together in one place. There's a lot of different site templates that can really help you in terms of, establishing working groups. So I will let you guys peck around on your sites for another 5 minutes or so. The major takeaways I wanted us to be able to do was to download and provide the address to your portfolio, upload or modify your Lecture 1 page to reflect your learning objectives and your assessment questions, and modify your introduction page. So take no more than 10 minutes to modify those, and we'll move on to the next phase of the program after that.
About like receiving. I know you mentioned doing it in the Google Doc and then it come out a live document that you just change.
Okay, great question. The question was how to integrate your CV into this template. Well, there's options, but Google Sites works very well with Google Docs. But there's a certain kind of order of operations and a few check boxes you need to make sure you've done. So I'm going to actually add my CV to this. So I'm going to go over to the CV page. We know to edit a page, we have to hit edit. I don't want to type my CV again. Nobody does, right? You've got it. You finally got it the way you want it. That's good. So what you want to do is upload your CV to Google Docs. And you want to make sure that it is public. So if it's not public and I go to your site and click on your CV thing, it's going to say you don't have permission to view it. And it's going to send you a message like, this person wants permission to view it. You don't want a bunch of emails like that. So I'm going to go over to Google Sites real quick and show you what that looks like. So Google Drive. I got in my Gmail. I moved over to Drive. Now I want to find my CV over here. Google is a search company, so I should be able to find it. Do I even have a CV in here is the question. I bet I can find one. I've got 2 Gmail accounts that haunt me. I'm always having to go between them, so I'm going to pop over to my other Gmail account, my other Drive, and find it there. Maybe I've just given up on looking for work. I can't find my CV. This is sad. Oh, here we go. All right, so I'm going to take you through the whole process starting from, I could download this. A truly modern dilemma. I'm having to share it with myself to conduct this exercise, but all right, so I'm in email, I'm pulling in this document. I've got my CV up now inside of Google Docs, I'm going to say. Yes, I do. Okay, so here it is. I want to make sure that it's shared with anybody in the world that wants to look at it.
So this is a Word document, or can
Well,
you do?
it started its life as a Word document, and I uploaded it to Google Docs.
Okay, so Google Docs is the actual file type.
Now it is. Yes. So
Can we do this with PDFs?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Be able to.
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
If you could be able to upload it.
He wants to, yeah, so that when we change it in Google Docs, automatically populates into the template.
Okay, so the question is, how do I get my CV on my site? The answer is first get your CV into Google Docs and make it public. The next thing you want to do is go over to Sites, to your CV page, edit that page, and then using the insert function, you will see how tightly integrated Sites are with the rest of the Google products. You can go over here and say, insert from Drive a document. Here's the document that I want to insert. All right, so you get this funky little window that looks like it didn't work. When you hit save, that'll go away and the document will actually render in Sites. So once again, from the top, I want to edit, and this is the same thing you could have done with your learning objectives or your assessment items. If you want to integrate them into the Sites as a standalone page, it's easy to do. This wasn't really set up for that, so notice when we went to lectures, lecture 1, content page. So for your test questions, that might be an exact thing you want to do for your test questions. You already have them in a Word document. Upload them to Drive, make them public, and then you could edit this page by just include them in this page by hitting edit, insert, go find that document on Drive. Here's where my test questions are, and put them in. It's exactly what we did with the CV. All right, so the CV, what did we do? Went to this page, edited the page. It was a blank page when we started. We inserted a Drive document. And again, the document has to be public for other people to be able to see it. When you're logged in as you, it always works. When you want to show it to someone, and that's the illusion. Hey, it works for me. And it's like, well, nobody else can see it. Well, you have to make it public, and you do that through the blue share button inside a Drive. That would be this little puppy up here. So take a couple of minutes, upload your CV into Google Docs, integrate it into the site, get your self-introduction tweaked a little bit, add your learning objectives and your assessment questions.
should we make these sites public or just to available to people who have the link? My only question, another reason I'm asking that question is that, you know, make them public and we've got other testing questions in here, something like that. So you can access it. We make it available to whoever has a link, that would just be people who's on to your site.
I would go with the link. Drive traffic to your site.
We get a
Yeah,
seven
popular
minutes,
thing right there.
100 people, just like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just sort of opening up to access all the
Maybe if just save it or something. Yeah. Helpful now. Thank you.
share that. And then maybe you can say that one.
I see it now. So whatever you did.
I just hit save.
There you go.
Actually, just the notes that I had taken, Tara had given us, actually, just follow them like word for word.
Like you're
Exactly.
supposed She's pretty good.
So I posted it. Got a couple of students that are taking it different times and stuff, so that's going to, once it's in paper copies.
the last thing I wanted to share with you on the sites in the portfolio just came up. There are some settings when you upload your documents from your computer into Google Docs. I'm going to go into my sites here. Notice these icons. You know, these are Google file type icons. This is a spreadsheet, that's a form, that's a Word document. Of course, we know there's the PDF icon. Notice I don't have any, okay, here's a Word document. To make your life as easy as possible, when you upload documents from your computer into Google Docs, you want to make sure that your upload settings will convert those to the Google Doc format. And the way you do that is, get over here. In settings, they change this every time I figure it out. Now I'm lost again. Convert uploads. This is your friend. When you're taking a Word document to Google Docs, you want it to turn it into a Google document. It'll make things easier for you.
Sorry, can you say what settings?
Settings are over here. So this is Google Drive settings.
Okay. And then there you want to do convert doc.
Yep. Inside your Drive, you want to have documents that look like this. This is a Google Drive document. This is a Word document. I've got a mixture in here, but I don't use everything integrating with sites. But since that's our plan, I would recommend making sure your upload settings convert everything to a Google Docs format. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns about this, you can post to the discussion area in Canvas or email me directly. But I'd like to leave the ePortfolio section behind at this point. Make sure you save all your documents. And move on to the next phase of the operation.
Richard,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Jennifer Worley. I posted a question in the chat session, and I didn't know if you saw it or not. But my question is, if you make a change in a Google Doc, is it going to automatically update to the site, or will we have to update the Google Doc that is uploaded to the site each time an edit is made, like to the CV, for instance?
All right, so great question. If you edit your, say your CV in Google Docs, so you get a new job, you go into Google Docs, you type it in there, it will automatically matriculate over to your Google Sites. I mean, it's actually a live, real-time picture of that site.
Okay, so there's no button we have to click or anything to make sure that happens.
Nope. When you save it in Google Docs, Drive just picks up the most current version of that. So my advice would be maintain it in Google Drive. If you need to pull it down, you can always download it as a PDF or a Word doc. But to make your life as easy as possible and as efficient as possible, I would do most of my editing in Google Drive. So it is seamlessly connected with sites. Great question. And no, I hadn't looked at the chat window yet because I couldn't find it, but I found it now, so I'm back.
Thank you.
Short review on making something a Google Doc. Yes, let's do that. How do I make something a Google Doc? Well, I get into Drive. And you've got options. You could start from scratch with new, and it'll ask you what type you want to do. But most people are probably starting their journey in Microsoft Word. So if I wanted to start from scratch, I would just select Google Docs and start typing. That would be that version. If I wanted to upload something, what did they do with the upload button now? Yeah, every time I look at this interface, it changes, which is really irritating. Okay, My Drive, upload files. So I'm going to go upload a Word document. Oops. Go over to desktop. I'm going to grab this Word document. Now notice I've changed my settings, so this should be converted. It's called DTE planning. Uploading. Now it's got the W here, upload complete. Let's see what kind of document it is. It uploaded a Word document and it converted it to the Google Doc format. Here it is. Now remember, your job's not done yet, because although it's uploaded, it doesn't mean that anybody can see it except me. If I want to share it with somebody, then I would have to go over to the share button, try and figure out their new interface for sharing, but the options are going to be something about advanced share. I could share it with one person or make it public on the internet. Thanks for that question. Okay. Over to learning objectives. We're going to do a little audience polling about learning objectives, how to classify them. So you'll probably need your cell phone out to be able to participate in this. We've got some live polls we need to negotiate. And the first question would be this. All these follow the same format. Is this a level 1 recall, level 2 interpretation, application and analysis, or level 3 problem solving? So the question we want to vote on is, which of the following is our X-linked recessive conditions? So we want to text one of these codes to 22333. So there's a group psychology phenomenon taking place where I'm screen sharing and everybody's answering the same thing, which is not anticipated, but we'll fight through it anyway. There's a great pull towards level 1. Answers are still pouring in from across the region, but I'm going to say we can probably agree. Now, why is this widely considered to be level 1?
You don't have to use like any level of interpretation or analysis. It's just basic. What is it? It's just straight recall.
Straight recall. Which of the following is R? It's like a definition. If you know the definition, you can answer the question. So I'm going to go with the group on this. All right. Question 2. Let's look at this one. process is the same. I'll let you guys read it quietly to yourselves. You guys can get in the meeting too if you want, but or here, doesn't matter. Patient vignette. Which of the following drugs has the patient most likely been taking? Heart drug, ringing in his ear symptom, heart rate, EKG results, a heated debate is starting between level 2 and 3.
Slowly catching up.
So while you guys are considering this, I will make the point again, distinguishing between level 1 and level 2, not very difficult. Between 2 and 3, extremely difficult. There's actually 6 levels, but academic pharmacy, ACPE, is pretty much endorsed just collapsing those down to 3. And that's what I've asked you guys to do. So we've got a race going on here between 2 and 3. Any cardio lecturers, aspiring cardio lecturers in here?
No, it's next semester, but could be arranged.
Okay, well, let's talk about this for a second. We've got a nice split between level 2 and level 3. Let's hear from some of the level 3 people. There's 18 of you out there, so just feel free, anyone. Why 3 and not 2? Going once.
We're evaluating EKG, I guess. But if it says it's already, I don't know.
Yeah, see, I think too, because if you're not interpreting the EKG, it tells you the results of the EKG. So it's not like we have a script or, and we interpreted that as PR, QRS or prolong.
But it says, I agree with that totally, but you could also, like, it shows, did you say that it shows the other name?
What do you?
It just shows the intervals. Like, it shows that because you looked at it and analyzed it.
But is that a question on my exam or is that a question I wrote?
So there's some debate in the room about level 2 or 3. Are we interpreting the information in the vignette, or are we just analyzing it? And this can get really wonky really quick. So I encourage people to round down. But in this case, I did ask the content expert at the school what they thought, how they would rate it, and I'll share their response with you. Where's the response? All right, so for this question, the content expert here at the pharmacy school said they would rate this a 2. Because they were expecting the student to pick out a side effect that they should know based on their knowledge of the specific medication.
When I first did it, I said level 1, honestly, when I did it like months ago.
Well, that's a very interesting comment because she goes on to say that it's almost a level 1. However, they would say level 2. So your observations are right on.
The recall,
Yeah.
But
You have to do apply it a little bit, I think. as well.
You have to put it in context
Yeah.
of what the patient information, so it's more than just like.
You're
what is the
right.
Side effect for drug X,
Right.
blatantly what they want you to know.
You would have to think that it's the most robust level 1 question ever, or a solid level 2 question.
Can it always has to be a level 1, technically.
Well,
Everything is knowledge based.
all questions assume all other lower levels
Okay.
are part of it. So in one respect, you want to assess at the highest level you can, because it takes care of all the other levels.
And what you guys were bringing up too about level 3 in terms of like, are we interpreting this strip or not? If you were given a picture of a strip and you weren't told this is prolonged, right? You'd say, this is the strip, what drug are they on? You would then have to interpret the strip, then determine it's prolonged. Now what side effect or what drug am I looking at? That would be more that level 3 where you're having to do it in that moment. Here you're just given that info, so you're putting in context of, well, what drugs can prolong the urine.
Right. So the comment in the room was, if we were given actual something to interpret, instead of showing the ECG, if we had to interpret it ourselves as opposed to reading what it was, that might push it up to 3.
I couldn't really differentiate it all between 2 and 3.
All right.
Depends exactly what you're asking them to hear. You've interpreted it for them, but if you gave them the strip to
Yeah,
themselves, that's that higher level.
Put it in.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at another one. Which of the following tests would have predicted these findings? Is there enough information there to make a decision?
Is it based on the
It's
other
not a trick question. No, this is a standalone. This is a standalone, just generic. Imagine there's a vignette, and then this is the question.
So are the options like a K-type?
All we have is what we've got.
Because that would be a higher level.
You guys always talk about that.
All right, so, we know that there's going to be some findings in the vignette, and the question is, what tests would have predicted these? So it looks like a race between 1 and 2. Are there any 2s in this group? We've got a 2. What do you think? Why?
What did I think? Because you have to analyze the case to figure out what test. I'm probably wrong, but that was my thought behind it. Just based on, as I thought the questions are all like based off like the same case. That's how I looked at it.
This is just generic question.
But I try to think like, oh, could I evaluate it? Yeah, I can evaluate it. I think of it like that, and I don't. That's not the right way to go about trying to decide what the question it is. Like I try and apply the adjective.
So my thinking on this is, if the results are simple, it's going to be a level 1. What test does this? So it kind of depends on the context, and there's not really enough. It depends what the results are. What if the results are, 104 fever? I don't know, that's not a good example. I thought 2 or 3 on this one, because clearly there's going to be some information that comes along with it.
Like you said, it depends on the test they're asking, what the question is. It could be as what test will give you a blood glucose reading. At that point, I think that's a level 1.
That is. So this was intentionally ambiguous to make you start going through the exercise of, well, exactly what you said. All right, let's look at another one. 62-year-old man develops acute shortness of breath and pleuritic chest pain 4 hours after undergoing. Yeah, God bless you. Which of the following is the most likely diagnosis? Experience or level 3 is out to a big lead, but it's early.
Here comes down the stretch.
It's getting late. Okay, well, you have a decent sampling of responses, enough to start the discussion. Why 3? Why did this jump out as a 3?
With me, you would have to do a differential diagnosis to say exactly what it could possibly be. That's a much higher, I think, level of understanding or question solving. So I think problem solving.
That's like it's a judgment call. Yeah. You say, I think he has this, or
You have to analyze different things, like look at values, look at history.
They're also not given any objective values to interpret. It's all kind of subjective. He's got chest pain. You know, he had 1 surgery. You know, what are we doing? What's going on?
So everyone thinks this is a 3, and everyone thought this was a 3. There were more 2s back here. This was a little more evenly split. So, again, not knowing anything about this disease state or condition, I asked the content expert, the pharmacy school. And once again, they shared with me their opinion. And it's pretty much the same opinion as it was the last time. I'll read the full disclosure now.
Yeah.
For both of these questions, I would consider them a 2. In both cases, you're expecting the student to pick out a side effect that they should know based upon their knowledge of a specific medication in the first question, or a disease state in this question. If there wasn't patient information that you had to analyze to put the question into context, I'd almost say it is level 1. However, I would say level 2 is the best.
I would lean more towards 3 because it says what's the most likely diagnosis. You have to consider other diagnoses as possible.
It could be a 3. I mean, again, this was one person's opinion. Clearly not a 1. And between 2 and 3 is, you know, when in doubt, round down, but it could have gone either way.
Now we see why the professors think the tests are easy and tests are hard. That was the most difficult test. What do you think about? No, level 1. You did level
So Dr. Johnson, what do you think? 2 or 3?
I'm almost leaning a little bit more towards 2 myself, but I could see 3 as well, but I don't know.
You have to pick.
Well, he thinks about it. I think it depends, like, if it's a multiple choice question versus the student having to come up with, like, out of their memory, like, all the different disease states. So not just, like, the question itself, but how are you going to expect the student to answer? Because if I give you 4 choices, that's a little different than just any disease state we've ever talked about, and you have to come up with that potential diagnosis free turnaround. So then if it's like fill in the blank versus multiple choice, I would change their levels.
Great point. Response format might alter what level it is. Fill in the blank or essay is going to be much more easy to round up than multiple choice rounding down.
I can see that.
Oral exam might be level 3. All right, one more of these. You want to read this one, Dr. Johnson?
All righty, right up our alley here. 22-year-old man with a 3-week history of polyuria and polydipsia has had nausea, vomiting, and decreased responsiveness for the past 12 hours. Urinalysis shows 4 ketones. Which of the following sets of arterial blood gas findings is most likely? It's probably 4+ ketones.
So it is. I'm sorry.
Okay, 4+ ketones in the urine. Nausea, vomiting, polyuria, polydipsia, unresponsive, decreased responsiveness. So what's the diagnosis, guys? Yeah. So it's probably DKA, and then so if he's so. You think it's arterial blood gas to show then? What's that? Acidosis? Yeah, I'm getting more in the therapeutic side of it.
Guys, stay focused. What level is it? This is not a real patient. Save a life. No, come on.
What's the treatment of choice for this? What's the first thing you give this patient?
Glucose.
No. This is even another
Not
question.
complex carbohydrates.
What's the first thing you give this patient? Yes. Fluids. Hold on, say it like this. It's DKA, yeah. Anyway, that's another. That's the next level question.
I'm like, do we know what he had yet? I'm so back to that.
So. Well, this is really nice.
Yeah. You're fine. Like,
I thought it was
I was talking to one of
just because you're an answer, okay?
I look at that and I see DKA, like, perfect picture of it. And so that's why I think, it's just recalling. We know that DKA, they're, likely acidotic. So it's pretty simple just to interpret what pH is going to be. But,
It depends on the answers you're giving.
Depends on the audience.
You might do a little curveball.
Yeah, I think that there's
Multiple
like,
values.
yeah.
That's fine.
To me, it seems like a little bit more than just that.
just one.
I don't know.
Even if you have multiple values and you envision this guy as having DKA, they're likely going to be, you would expect them to be at least similar across all patients for the most part, for what at least the answers to your test question are. I don't know. That's why I thought it was level 1.
You're not alone, apparently. Quite a few people think it's a recall question. Seems like there's a lot going on for a recall
Yeah,
question.
it does to be.
It's too long to be level.
Right?
Easier than this one, and then we're doing like 2 or 3, and this one, I'm like,
Because you would have to figure out what kind of alkalosis or acidosis based on the level.
There's different
you
types,
get,
there's like
and then
metabolic.
exactly
Yeah.
respiratory.
and there's-
I think it's more than just recall.
Would a recall question be like a patient with DKA has a
Like you're
blood,
given a
a blood gas of X or something?
Yeah.
Would that be more kind of recall, because you're not even giving the diagnosis here. So you're going to have to come up with what you think it is, and then you have to then determine.
You have to interpret from both. So you have to interpret the diagnosis, and then you have to turn and interpret the set of lab values
Yeah.
to associate.
See, maybe I do a lot of diabetes. But to me, it seems like you'd have to pull some things more together than to come to that diagnosis, and then to say, okay, then what is it? And there are no blood acids.
You have expert opinion.
I do not. My limited opinion would be, you're having to solve something that kicks it out of 1. And I'm really reluctant to jump up to 3. So
Look and ask them to see what they think.
sure. Well, they're beyond what they've chimed in on. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
Like you have to pull everything together and like write this things like multiple levels, and you're just like reading more than you're doing 2 steps.
Okay, like on a straight, like the 3 response.
Talking about like the
And there-
synthesis.
Yeah, like what would be a level 3? That's like creating a treatment plan for that disease state.
Maybe Rich can talk about it. I agree, but I think you can also have multiple choice that are good level 3s as well. You know what I mean? I think a good multiple choice exam can assess all 3 levels or the combined levels, basically. 1 and 2. I don't think.
K-type can surely do that. Easy to.
Did y'all have K-type on Netflix?
yes.
Yes, Kate Newton says it's
Well,
still on
It's
there.
much more than one was like every
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Really
They weren't
not-
true K-type questions, but the way it was worded.
And which the blood cell reply.
Really?
You have to like 3 questions like one.
Like the most covered so much knowledge.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the screen sharing. I am tempted to say, I would probably go 2 with this, but it's not my area. You have to solve something if you guys. So why is it 1? Anybody?
For people that work in that area.
Yeah. If you're, a respiratory therapist or something, it's 1. If you're not, it might not be.
I think it depends on the context you work in every single day and your knowledge already. You know what I mean? I think your knowledge basis. Because for P, like, I had diabetes my 2nd year, so like this would definitely not be a level 1 for me on a test. I think.
I think there's too much going on for level 1.
But someone who is a physician or a pharmacist who works in diabetes, then again, I think it could be like a level 1 for them.
The question assumes a lot of prior knowledge, like that just reading that little intro that you know that they have to do. That's not told to you. You have to figure that out.
You have to come up with that.
And you have to know.
So that's analysis.
Right, and you have to know.
That's level 2.
acidosis Or alkalosis, and what would my pH be? What would be my bicarb? What my PaCO2 would be? So you're having to look at multiple pieces. Now, maybe if it only has 1 individual piece, not as difficult, but if you're looking at multiple, dietitian arterial-blood gas does provide you with more than just 1 piece of info, so it helps you look at acidosis, alkalosis, respiratory, metabolic. You have to, each number kind of changes where that's going, so.
To me, that looks more like a level. I agree, kind of more like a level 2-ish to me. And then take that question again. Take that same question, that STEM, and say, based on all of that, how would you best treat this patient? Going back to that, give them normal saline, fluids. What do you think that would kick it? Do you think that would kick it to a 3, to level 3 at that point? where you're actually problem solving, coming up with, what do you think?
Right. I do, because level 3 tends to be things like create
A treatment
a
plan. or
treatment
something like
plan
that.
or evaluate a treatment plan. So create is the top of the food chain in terms of the verbs for classification. So if you're having to come up with something, especially response format is not multiple choice, that is guaranteed level 3. But it's hard to get to guaranteed level 3 in the multiple choice format. There's a giant pull down towards 2, it seems like.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I would say it's very hard to make a level 3 with a multiple choice. Whenever you're providing the choices, it takes away that one level of being able to pull that knowledge
Right.
completely, really having a full understanding of that disease state versus can you recognize one of these options that we discussed. So it always tends to pull it down a little bit.
You can always use your answers to like find the right answer, even if you don't know it.
Oh, what a beautiful segue into the next section. Okay, well, there's a couple other things. Thank you all for participating in the online polls. I hope this helped. I hope this helped edify you on how to classify questions, learning objectives, Bloom's taxonomy. I'm going to go back to the sheet. So I've got 2 things here I'd like to do. Author learning objectives is the next thing. So if you go down here and select this, you're going to be greeted with a Google form. Similar to the last form we had. And what I'd like you to do here is complete this form. Is it just, oh Lord.
Comes up with more online.
Okay, it should. I was going to say this epic fail, just one question. So there should be several questions, I think 5 questions here. I think it's the same 5 as our poll questions. Your task is to draft a corresponding learning objective for that question. All right, so we're given the question, we're going to draft a learning objective.
I'm being told I need permission for this page. Is anybody else getting that? I got somebody in chat saying yes. So.
It's not good. Well, let's see if I can help you with that. Is anybody's working in here? 1, 2. All right, so the link we should be clicking on is the classify learning objectives. Is that? No, author learning objectives, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm on the author learning objectives, and I've got that I need permission.
Okay, well, let's see if I can give you permission real quick. Oh. Amber or Mark, does it work for you? We're able to. It's not out.
Yeah, came up for me.
All right, let me check this. So it looks like the outside people are having issues getting into.
That's why I assume. No, I don't have a need, there's nothing, I didn't say need permission, it's just one.
Yes, no,
I have nothing on my page, it's just blank.
hit refresh and see what happens. Okay, I'm fixing the permissions on it real quick. Hopefully I'll be able to share that with everybody.
That's what it is.
It is, okay.
Quick question, were we required to do the e-learning from King? I feel like we did this. On Canvas.
Answer is maybe.
Okay, I just need to find it.
I thought about it and then I said, well, we'll just do it in class.
Okay.
So there might have been one or two of you that just considered authentic practice if you've done it.
Okay, I'm in now to the author learning objectives form.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay, thank you.
So the trick is what?
Actually, the link worked for me that you were sending us to originally.
Okay.
Oh, well, I guess it's, yeah.
So what's the trick to authoring a learning objective given a question? It's the verbs, finding the verb. What's the verb? That's the trick. You know, most of these are going to be multiple choice questions. All multiple choice questions could be construed as a select, identify, recognize. All right. All those are permissible. I don't want to skew your answer choices or anything, but you know, in a pinch, those all work in multiple choice formats. Now, it doesn't help you in terms of classifying because what you're choosing or classifying or recognizing depends on the vignette. So which of the following ... students will be able to select ... I'm a fan of the reverse engineering process. I think you should write your questions first. Then design your learning activities and your lectures. And then pull out your objectives from your questions. Concept of backward design, starting with the end in mind. What do you want the students to know? Well, that's what you're going to be assessing them on. Okay, take another couple of, say, minute. You don't have to write out your learning objectives all the way and restate the question. Just pick the appropriate verb. Or verb type. Okie doke. Thank you for your responses. Go ahead and submit the form when you're finished. Very briefly, a couple of things before we conclude here. Start my screen sharing again. All right, so I was going to run through this document, but I'll just make it available for everybody. I went through and kind of highlighted what I think to be the most important parts about assessment writing, item writing. So if you have Acrobat Reader or something where you can access bookmarks, each red rectangle is like a bookmark in this document, and I'll make it available for everybody. So, you know, what's the short version on how to write good questions? Scan through the bookmarks in this document. It starts off with pitfalls, and it'll just take you to, you know, everything you need to know about assessment writing. This is a very, very informative document. Most of the stuff, some of it is been covered in the lecture already. Some of it you already know. Some of it would be just reinforced. But so I'll make that available for everybody. The last thing I want you guys to do in this online synchronous activity would be to go over back to the page. And we want to do a sample test to see how good of test takers you are. I know all you people are expert test takers. All right, you've been in school forever. You're still in school. You're committed to school. You're even writing test questions for school. You can't get enough of it. Both sides of the table. So if you go to tonight's session, the page, there's a link called practice test.
Houston, we have permission problems again.
Guess what? I'm going to make the link available again. Darn internet.
We're so glad you're here, Richard.
Did it work for anybody here? Seems like all right, there's an inside group that are. It's worth the wait. Hang in there. No talking.
We're taking the practice quiz.
Right.
Very serious.
You have to get 100% or else you fail this course.
My page is blank.
So you're gonna have the same problem.
Again? Yeah, well, I've just.
Problem child, so do I have to take a test? Here's one, too.
The dog did not eat your homework.
I'm writing French this time. So I just
You should get on.
I can do it.
Are you not able to get in?
Yeah, I wasn't able to last time. You know, before I see it.
Sorry. I use my arm.
Still.
Oh, mine's working.
All right, hold on a minute.
Oh, you get this first free. Freshman in high school. No, freshman in high school, sorry, freshman in college. And it lasted me all the way until now. It still works.
Like there was afternoon, so it's like. So anyone needs on like 5 or 6. What else I like to between 5 and 10 patients. Like that's like all day. So we talk for your patient for like an hour. We just sit there talking.
Find the doctors.
Okay, so for those of you that can't get in, I'm going to say we push this activity until another time when we're not pushed for time. I know there's some announcements that need to be made, and we're just about out of time tonight. So you're not getting out of it. I'm just going to push it till later. So if you took it, congratulations. I don't want to share the responses until everybody has taken it. So we will save a little bit of the fun for later. So that kind of concludes. There's a couple things I want to do to follow up on this. I'll give you the assessment item writing document on Canvas. And I will make sure that everybody has access to the practice test to take it. So that would conclude the learning objectives, the writing test items, and we've made some progress on our portfolios tonight. So other than that, I will turn it over to Dr. Johnson and Dr. Wessner for announcements. And Amber, you might want to come down here so you.
Sharing the screen.
It
Like, I need
is.
to get on
Sure, yeah.
just to show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Canvas is open.
It's one of these tabs. I guess assignment. Okay, so just a few announcements while we finish up. So I'm not sure if Dr. Johnson had mentioned this to everyone yet, but Dr. Christina Ching is going to be helping us with the program going forward. So especially for the offsites, she's going to be kind of following up on due dates. And since we're putting everything into Canvas this year and creating assignments, if there's something that she knows is past its deadline based on what you've turned in for your lecture planning forms or your small group facilitation planning form, she kind of is going to keep track of all those due dates. And so if it's getting past those dates where you should have had things uploaded or completed, whether it's for the meetings that we have monthly or for the lectures, small group facilitation, that kind of thing, she'll be getting in touch with you and kind of following up with where you are on all of those assignments, as well as you can direct questions to her for the offsites. For our on-site residents, still kind of the first person you should go to is your mentor here. But she will be working with us, so you may see communication from her now and again. Going along with the assignments, so hopefully everyone has been into this section, and I don't know where my scroll bar is. There we go, I'll just use this. So there are assignments added in tonight, all including your lecture. So up to this point, you should have your lecture planning form done. You know what your first topic's going to be, where it's going to be done, and your due dates are kind of set for that for this fall. Tonight, now that you're thinking to drafting your slide set, writing test questions, writing objectives, you will see a new set of assignments that we put as a due date of December 1st, because most people should have that first lecture done by about that date. And so when these are expanded, and you can see the complete title, it describes what should be uploaded under each of these assignments. So there's the lecture one, your final slide set that you develop for your students. There will be clicked on the same one. There'll be one for your assessment questions, and it has a note in there to make sure that you've included the answers along with the test questions so that you're indicating which answers the best and your rationale that you would have provided to a student as feedback. There's a link for you to put up your self-reflection that you complete after your lecture, a link to put up your mentor's evaluation of you, also a link for the participants or the students that you lecture to. They should be doing some type of survey or written feedback on your lecture. So whatever way that you do that, we do SurveyMonkey here at the school. Offsite, sometimes they do like a paper evaluation based on who's there. Everyone will be a little bit different, but you should be compiling those results and uploading that as that assignment. So you will see more come up throughout the semester, but the lecture 1 items are up at this point. So hopefully everyone has that kind of scheduled and going. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the small group facilitation. So as you're kind of getting your lecture underway, this is the next big thing that you need to be thinking about. And there are some guidelines and descriptions in the overview document that you have, but I just want to kind of reinforce that at this point you should be starting to think ahead about what some of the small group facilitation opportunities that you can set up at your different sites. And some examples would be where you get together either a group of students or other residents or colleagues at your sites, and you could do a patient case review, do a disease state review, or a journal club review. The big things that you want to keep in mind, though, is that you need to create an activity for those participants to complete. So, for example, if it's a patient case, maybe you come up with the patient case and you have 10, 15 questions that go along with that case. So those participants come in, you review the background information, and then you give them some time to work individually or in small groups to answer questions. And then you're eliciting, all right, what did you come up with? What's the most likely diagnosis based on the information I gave you? Hear all those answers and kind of work through the feedback or why not each of those answers are correct, and you work through those questions. Disease state review, you could have them come in and review parts of the guidelines together. Maybe you assign some pre-reading, a review article on pneumonia, or some sections of the guidelines you want them to review coming in, so they have some baseline knowledge. But again, you've created some type of student worksheet or questions that they're going to work on answering, but then you have an answer key ready to go of those answers you're expecting the students to come up with. And if they don't get there on their own, you're helping to facilitate that discussion to get them to that point. So the main thing is create a student version, a worksheet, also have a facilitator key that clearly states the correct answers and what you will make sure, what content whoever participates will get out of that session by the end. An example of what is not a small group facilitation, and this is a common misconception, is a journal club that you're doing at your site. So you are responsible for looking at the article, creating that handout, summarizes methods, results, application of practice. You present it to a group of people, and then you ask, what questions can I answer about this article? That is not a small group facilitation. That would be a presentation to a small group of people, usually 5, 10 people, but you're the only one presenting information. You're not having to answer specific questions about an activity. You don't have an answer key of what those participants should be getting out of that session. So that's kind of the difference. Is you can use a journal club if you create it as an activity for them to look up answers, research, and you're going in a back and forth manner. But a presentation that you're doing to a small group is not a small group facilitation. So you kind of wanted to address that at the beginning as people are starting to plan their activities, and please start thinking about that. You will see assignments coming up soon on Canvas about your small group facilitation planning forms. So we know that you're starting to plan out activities, kind of scheduling out the time that you're going to need for that. So something to be seeking out those opportunities. If at any point you have a question if something's going to meet the requirement, then you should definitely email myself, Dr. Johnson, or Dr. Chang, so that we can make sure we approve it ahead of time versus you doing something and then it not actually meeting the requirements of the program. So
you guys are on site. Valley Health will kind of get up with you all. We kind of have a plan for you all with IPE students. So VA Martinsburg, actually they don't have those IPE students. So
Sort of.
yeah, yours is a little different, but we'll talk to you too. But we have things planned for you.
We got some things planned for you all.
Yeah.
And then Ian, you can do some things, and I've talked to Dawn with it and stuff about some things that we can maybe do. So But yeah, the offsites, I think if they can follow some of the guidelines that we put out in the overview document that Dr. Wessner was talking about, that's probably a really good place to go. We know last year that, I think this year we've given more guidance with that in terms of what types of things count. And as Dr. Wessner said, it does have to be to a group of students, or a group, actually it doesn't have to be students, but a small group, and you need to facilitate that and not just give a small lecture, so to speak, or something like that. So anyway.
That's all the announcements I have about completing these different components at this time. Like Richard mentioned on his way out, we didn't quite get a chance to finish up his exam writing section or fully all the objective stuff. So we'll make sure we schedule some time in the next session or two where he can come back and wrap up the things he didn't have time for. So we'll make sure we get into that a little bit more, hopefully before you're really having to write your test questions full out. But be working on them behind the scenes on your lectures, and then we'll come back to that topic since we ran out of time tonight. Any questions? Okay.
I think just a comment just for our offsites is that make sure, guys, in the offsites that and the program is intended for y'all to have mentors as offsites to help you not only with kind of the content of the program, of the lecture, so to speak, or of your material, but really more for your presentation skills and kind of to assess kind of how you are presenting and give you feedback on that. So make sure that you work with your mentors at your site. Dr. Chang will be overseeing all of that and kind of making sure that things are done in a timely fashion and that you're making sure that things are getting done. She's not going to go over, though, unless you would want her to go over something a little bit in more detail, a lecture, something that you're given. We're kind of relying on your on-site mentors to more help you with the content and whatnot of that. But again, if there is a topic or something that nobody's familiar with at your site or something like that, and you did want to see if somebody could help you a little bit with that, just let us know. We can kind of do that on a one-on-one basis. But again, make sure you use your mentors at your sites. And then I guess our next time we get together, it's going to be Dr. Wessner and I. We will be linking a presentation on developing. It's entitled Developing a Professional Presentation. We will be linking that pretty soon, and I'll email you to let you know that. And then Dr. Wessner and I will be conducting the discussion the next time we get together, getting kind of into the nuts and bolts of developing a presentation, more the mechanics of it, the style of it, things like that. And checking, I guess, understanding during your teaching as well. So this next part, we're going to get kind of into the nuts and bolts of an actual presentation itself. So, any questions from anybody, either here in Winchester or off-sites? Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, guys. We will see you next month, if not before.
Do you know where I can't see the video or anything. I don't know which one it is.
Can't see the
Like, I don't see the Zoom people. Like, all these things. I don't know where they are.
Minimize that second. There.
Because we want to try to be out.
Like, are we sure they're even on here?
Yeah,
They were.
we might not have to be in that location per se.
Like, I'm not sure.
Right, yeah.
Did they even get into that last bit?
That's the hardest part, is
Yeah.
getting there.
I mean, I know they were asking questions throughout at different points, but I can't find anything when it's on my own computer.
Like, I hate that.
They were up there. I don't know. I think that's some now. Maybe they-
Okay. The reason why the ICP students that just reminded me, so Annika Tavner, she has 4 students every Wednesday. So I've been helping a lot with that. And I did a journal, since
Next
they're
week, yeah.
P2s, they haven't ever,
It is next week, isn't it?
they didn't really know what a journal club was. So I gave them an article and I gave them the format that we use. And I told them, like, fill it out as much as you can. And we'll go over it step by step. So like I explained, as they were each section, I would ask them, like, what did you put for this? And we would talk about it. So not more so focusing on the article, but just like the process of a
You're
journal
smart.
club.
You can figure that out.
So I did, like, and it took a lot of time to do. And like that whole time, it took about almost 3 hours just to go over everything. Would I be able to use, I know it's like backtrack. I didn't even think of that as a group discussion or group small group facilitation. But I mean, I'm sure I'll have